our good friend Ian Beckles. We got to tell him every single week to turn the phone sideways. But listen, first off, happy Thanksgiving. Everybody sends their love from the NY.
Same to you, brother. Same to you.
My mom's like sitting over here FaceTiming me 5 minutes before the show. Come on, mama, you know that, you know better. But I was thinking to myself before the show today, I go, man, if you were affiliated with Ian Beckles at all in football, you had a good weekend with Indiana beating Purdue. I know you felt good about that one. The Eagles, that's a good win for the Eagles over the Baltimore Ravens, and the Buccaneers winning over the Carolina Panthers yesterday. If you're any way involved with Ian Beckles in the football world, you had yourself a pretty nice weekend.
Well, the Eagles can suck it, but the Buccaneers, got a little lucky yesterday, as you saw, and my Indiana Hoosiers, I wouldn't say that's luck. 66-0. I don't think that's luck. And look, the rivalry games didn't really work. The last thing I did in college, since I was a captain for the Hoosiers, me and Anthony Thompson had to walk over the old Oaken Bucket into the Purdue locker room and give it to them, and they beat us to knock us out of bowl contention and out of a Heisman. So to watch my Hoosiers demolish them 66-0 was fun.
I feel like this year for Indiana has been such like it's almost like a healing season for you, right? All the years you'd have to go and you wonder like, hey, you have one good week or one big upset, but just this whole year, I mean, I feel like it's been very therapeutic for you and your Hoosier brethren.
Well, Jay, you know me enough to I'm a realist. Like I'm not like Aaron Jacobson, where every year the Mets are gonna win, and every year the Knicks are gonna win, and every year the Jets are gonna win, and they never win. So I'm a realist, and listen, my Hoosiers have been 4-0. And when I look at your Hoosiers, I'm like, take it easy, wait to see. Then they get to the Big Ten, and they end up losing, 7 of 8. So this year, about the 5th game of the season, I go, this is a little bit different because they were mollywopping people, and they were playing offense, defense. Their coach is cocky as can be in a lovable way, and I've enjoyed this year. It's been great.
Yeah, it's funny. You told me very early on this year. I'm really early. You were like, they're going to beat Michigan. And I was like, okay. I mean, you beat the defending national champions. And listen, we know they're not the same team as last year, but still, you see it in the game against Ohio State. I'm going to ask you about that. What'd you think about that big upset where Michigan beats Ohio State? It just seemed like, as you've been telling me for many years, they were winning the battle in the trenches, Ian.
Well, I put money on Michigan, okay, because I watched Indiana play Michigan and I watched Indiana play Ohio State. Indiana beat Michigan, although they didn't win in the trenches. Okay, they won despite that. Ohio State beat the crap out of Indiana in the trenches, and I just thought that Michigan matched up better in the trenches, and they did. And when you have a locker room full of people who have never lost to Ohio State, if you don't think that's a big deal, you're crazy. Like they thought they were going to win that game, so I just thought that Michigan is not a better team than Ohio State. They just thought they were going to win that game, and they figured it out.
What do you make of like the flag planting on the field and that whole thing? Because we know with college football, you just mentioned with Purdue, it's all about rivalries, right? And we know Baker Mayfield, right? He planted the flag for Oklahoma right there in the middle of the O there at the Horseshoe years ago. What do you make of that whole thing? Do you think it's over the line? I mean, we saw it too with like Florida and Florida State. Mike Norvell's freaking out. Yeah. Part of me looks at it as like, yeah, I could do without it. It is what it is because, you don't see the Ravens and the Steelers, who I think is one of the biggest rivalries. And they're not coming to fisticuffs at the end of the game. And that doesn't take away from the game. But college football is different. So I see both sides of this. Where do you fall on that?
I'm solely on one side. I'm about sportsmanship. Okay, that's where I came. That's where I came from. I coached Chamberlain football this year, and Boca Ciega beat the crap out of us in the playoffs. And I have a video of one of their players spitting on 3 of our players. Okay, so you're gonna beat the crap out of somebody, then spit on them. Like I just don't understand that. You already beat the crap out of somebody on the field. That should be enough. But you don't have to plant something somewhere because Jay, you know me. I don't overreact on something, but on everything I love. If you plant something on my field, I'm coming. I'm just telling you. If you try to plant something in the middle of my field, I'm running full bore at somebody, and somebody's getting laid out. Maybe I'm wrong for that, but that's the way I was built. If you beat me, for God's sakes, don't disrespect me. Remember LeGarrette Blount popping old boy in the face? I got that. I understood it. If you whoop me, don't come up in my face talking crap. You about to get dealt with. So I hated the way it ended. I really did. But I understand. I just thought that the planting on somebody else's field is just unnecessary for me. How can it end well? They're not going
Right.
to let you do it. So when you do it, you're just really inciting a riot, and there's a bunch of people getting tased and pepper sprayed.
Pepper
It, it's
spray. It's
it's
like,
all
oh.
it's stupid. It's meaningless.
Yeah, I don't think it adds really much anything to it, but
Nope.
it is what it is, right? It's not going to like quelch any of the bad vibes. There could already be fisticuffs after the game without that, right? So
What
these college football games
that
are nuts.
guarantees
Yeah,
fisticuffs
you're
though.
just throwing a whole
Guarantees it.
bunch of lighter fluid on there.
Yep.
Something came up in my Facebook memories the other day, and it was when we used to do our halftime heats. And you and I used to write down these certain things that we didn't get into topic A or B. And mine was like the top 10 teams that people hated the most. And it was, of course, the Yankees were on there, the Cowboys, the Lakers, and teams like that. But yours was something about Baker Mayfield. And ironically enough, it was about him in Cleveland. And you and I went back and forth. And even going into this year, I still was kind of lukewarm on whether Baker Mayfield is a good enough quarterback to be able to lead the Buccaneers, not just to a Super Bowl, but to win a Super Bowl. And I think your halftime heat was something about like Baker not having the it factor. And, I think we've learned a lot about Baker Mayfield that we probably didn't know looking from afar. Like we know a lot more about him. And I think that happens a lot. And maybe it was, and I know maybe for me, you look at him, maybe lump him in with Johnny Manziel. You maybe lump him in with like, all right, a guy that was drafted too high. But would you say that he does have that it factor now that we've learned more about him? Or is there still reservation? Is there still like, hey, the judgment is out? Because, as good as he has played for the Buccaneers, really doesn't mean anything unless you take him back to the promised land.
I don't think he's played all that great the last couple games. Okay, maybe a couple, 3 games. That being said, your question is, do I think he has it? Undoubtedly, no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. Listen, I've been in sports radio a long time. I said a lot of things. I made a lot of predictions. I can say I was wrong about Baker Mayfield. I'm okay with that. Like I'm just, I remember saying, listen, Baker Mayfield has good film, but it's been a while.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, so for us to just say we're going to be okay with Baker Mayfield is it's a little bit much. So let's wait and see. I wasn't excited about Baker Mayfield coming here. He just been on 3 different teams. Nothing
Correct.
ever worked. I don't think I ever questioned his competitive nature, but I think that's what makes him great. I really
Mhm.
do. I think that's what got him in trouble early in his career as a young football player. Now he's an older football player with the same competitive nature. He makes somewhat better decisions, although he's still kind of that rebel type of cat. But there's no doubt in my mind that Baker Mayfield makes people in that huddle better. And that's all you really want your quarterback to do. Do I think he's good enough to win the Super Bowl? Yes. But the Buccaneers got to be way better around him than they are right now.
You got that right. I want to shout out to our guy, Coach Ward, from out there in Armwood. Great to see the big man joining the program. Great season this year at Chamberlain. That's a lot of love from Coach Ward over there at Armwood. Jake Kobe and Chepin, what's up? Happy Victory Monday. Shout out to Anthony Nelson for saving the season. Ian,
Yep.
that is a guy right there. And you've told me about this, and it's kind of ironic. Will Golston's very similar, right? There's guys like this on a football team where if you look at their stats, you're going, I don't see it. But if you watch the tape, this is what Anthony Nelson does. He had a sack last year at the end of the game. He's just a guy that he's only going to play a certain percentage of the snaps. He's not a starter, but he's a rotational pass rusher that's going to give you everything he's got. And he's going to come up with plays like this that are going to put your team in a position to win. It looked like the Buccaneers were going to blow that game last night. And here comes Anthony Nelson, strips the ball away from Hubbard. Yaya comes up. They go back down the field, and then they end up winning the game. But just speak about a guy like Anthony Nelson and a role like that, what that guy has on a team like the Buccaneers.
Well, Anthony Nelson seems to come up with those big plays, and some guys they have a propensity to do that. Some other guys don't. All right. I like to see more from our ends personally. Okay, but Yaya Diaby made a couple of big plays. Obviously, Anthony Nelson made a big play, so you can't complain about it. The meat and potatoes of our defense is on the inside. I think we all know that. But just imagine we had 2 rushers on the outside with Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea on the inside. That's going to be amazing. And I guess we thought Yaya was going to be that guy. He hasn't been that guy. Although I'm not disappointed with Yaya. I'm disappointed when I watch JTS play. I'm disappointed in lack of effort at times. And I don't know if it's lack of effort or lack of nasty. I always
Mhm.
see Yaya playing hard. So I just don't have a problem. Shaq Barrett used to play real hard, but he wouldn't get sacks and he wasn't getting the production. So I don't have a problem with Yaya because eventually it's going to come, but we need to start getting a little bit more out of our ends. But Nelson, to me, there's something about him in big plays, and you need players like that. Will Golston is kind of like that lunchbox type of guy, but he doesn't make the same big plays as Nelson does.
Right. I want to ask you about Graham Barton. I thought yesterday was probably he was just struggling penalties,
He
and
was.
it just seemed like one of those games where you're going to have games like that where he's a rookie center, but when you have games like that, you just want to see him stay with it and keep pushing. What did you notice from the young rookie out of there rocking the 6'2"? Because I just felt like you're gonna have to live with games like that when you have a guy in his first year in that position.
Well, every time I hear holding 62, it gives me goosebumps. But I'm going to say this about Barton. This is week 13, something like that, and I don't really remember him having a bad game. I don't, there's been a couple plays here and there. I watched the games with Tony Mayberry, and I would go to Tony if I had a question about centers. If there's questions about centers, anybody in this city, I would go to Tony. Okay,
Right.
so Tony knows what he's talking about, and he'll just point out a couple things what the young kid is doing wrong. When I see rookie guards, I could be pointing them out as well. It hasn't been glaringly bad. Yesterday, I heard his name quite a few times. Football's about matchups. Sometimes you don't match up well against some people. As long as he rebounds and comes back, he hasn't played worse than Cody Malk.
Hmm.
Okay, and he's a rookie. Cody Malk, I like the way he fights, but sometimes his film's not pretty. And I really truly believe that, and I hope Liam Cohen is listening to me. You guys took a step forward as far as culture goes yesterday. Don't take a step back, because there was a couple situations yesterday, especially when Baker came in 3rd and 1. Run the freaking ball. What
Hmm.
do we play actioning and throw a pick for in that situation? Your quarterback just got knocked out of the game. You got a run. They got two running backs that are both averaging 6.1 yards a carry. Run the gosh darn ball. And Liam Cohen said he speaks to his father all the time, and his father always says, "Run the ball." Liam, run the ball. Period.
How great is Mark Schlereth calling those games?
I'm
He's one
so
of my
happy.
favorites.
I'm so happy you said that, Jay, because in the middle of the game, I go, "Is that stink?" And like I remember Schlereth from Denver, and our lockers were next to each other. What a good, cool dude! Just an everyday like this. He was so beat up. I watched him walk around the locker room, and I go, "Why are you still playing?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I go, "How many knee surgeries you had?" He's like, 34. And I go, "Why are you still playing?" He goes, "Because I got to replace my whole body at the end anyway, so I might as well keep going." And it was the craziest, most realistic thing I ever heard in my life. But Schlereth to me does as good as anybody in announcing. I don't care for announcers too much, but
Mhm.
offensive linemen, they see things a little bit different, and we're just a little bit smarter than everybody else too.
And he loves the game. You can tell
He
like
does.
he loves the meat and potatoes. He loves the nitty gritty. He shows love to both teams. It's never a bias. He looks at the plays and he looks at guys that are just grinding out there and maybe don't get the same type of love and the same type of attention as like the skill players, the guys on the outside, the quarterbacks.
Mhm.
I love that. He's always highlighting things that, we usually talk about when we're at your place, right? Before I let you go, I want to ask you what a win like yesterday means for the Buccaneers as far as, the grit and the tenacity. I don't know if you learned so much about this Buccaneers team in a win against the lowly Giants, but you kind of knew yesterday was going to be one of those funky games. It was a 4 o'clock start in Carolina. It's starting to get colder. They weren't, sharp. They weren't on their P's and Q's. I thought you learned a lot about the mettle, about the desire, about what the character of this Buccaneers team was in a game like that, beating a team like the Carolina Panthers, because they're not the team that everybody thought they were going to be. This is a team that was a possession away from beating the Chiefs last week. Let's not forget that. How important was that victory, and what did that tell you about this Todd Bowles led club?
Well, listening to like sports radio and everybody speaking about it this morning, um, everybody is disappointed. I couldn't be further from disappointed. I
I
mean,
agree.
you played. I'm not gonna say terrible, but you didn't play well. That's for sure. I mean, from 1 to 10, the Bucs played 5.5, and they won a football game on the road against a division team who was actually playing pretty good football. Dave Canales. Every time a coach comes on board, doesn't matter who it is, when they have new systems, it takes a while for them to everybody catch themselves. Carolina was starting to catch themselves a little bit. I think the broadcast, for sure, for me, gassed up Bryce Young too damn much. Like this guy was doing some Mahonian kind of crazy stuff. He just played a little below average for me. Okay, and to me, I didn't think there was very good quarterback play on either side of the ball all this year. I mean, yesterday. But to me, the Buccaneers look back at that. You make the corrections. You can fall back on making big plays defensively. You can fall back on running the football. We need to get way more out of our number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. Kate Otton's got to wake up again. We're not going to beat a good football team the way we played offensively or defensively yesterday. Defensively, we got to figure out ways to get to that quarterback because we're letting the young quarterbacks be, too comfortable back there. But I think as a whole, if you're a Buccaneer fan, you have to be elated with that win because we were one play away from our season being over. That season was over, you lose to Carolina, and now we're right in the thick of things.
Check him out on all social media platforms at Ian Beckles. Don't forget to check out In the Trenches. You want to find out what is going on with this Buccaneers team with no type of, soft stuff. He's going to give it to you straight. My man, Ian Beckles. I appreciate you, brother. I'm glad that you're doing well. The hoodie looks phenomenal. Even John Momola checking in, really digging that hoodie from Ian. Yeah, man. Yeah, sharp as attack. Make sure you go check them out. Dignitary Tea and Kava House, 4817 Southwest.
4817 Southwest Show. You got it.
Boom, baby. I appreciate you, brother. I'll talk to you later on this week.
I love, kid.